Greetings and salutations, and we are back with the Hardcore Paladin in Act 2, and we're going to try our best to not die. And get to a place where we can, let me bring up my skill tree, if I can do it without being a complete buffoon, where we can get sacrifice all the way up to level 20, and then continue to spam it and try to get everywhere we need to go. The only reason I'm using a Bardiche is because of how much damage it did versus Andariel. But looking back on it, we may want to switch back over to this. Just because it has a shield and I can block arrows. And I can get I can get some extra. I get the extra skill that's on the mace, which is 1 to might. It also has 1 to sacrifice, so it also boosts that too. So on the eve of Battlefield 6, that's what it is. On the eve of Battlefield 6, and I have to say, when I was talking to some people that were on, oh, man, that's a good weapon. That's really good. Like, really, really good. Yep, we're switching. When I was talking to some people on Twitter, they were talking about Black Ops 7, and they were saying that Black Ops 7 is going to be removing. I didn't want to do that. Oh well. I accidentally click it and ruin my experience game. Sucks to be me, I guess. They were saying that Black Ops 7 is removing skill-based matchmaking, which is the lobby I was playing in, the reduced SBMM lobby. And I don't have a problem with it, right? I never had a problem without skill-based matchmaking. Never had a problem with skill-based matchmaking. I don't have a problem with either of it. The thing that got me is people were wondering why. Why now, out of all the times, has Call of Duty decided to remove skill-based matchmaking when people have been clamoring for it for the longest time? And the only response to this I have is because you have shareholders. And those shareholders don't care about you. They don't care about the consumer. They don't care about anything. What they care about is game sales. And to a lesser extent, the little, what's it called? I'm trying to think of the name of it. Bundles. The bundle sales and everything like that. That's all they care about. They care about profit. You have shareholders and basically big wigs and CEOs and a whole bunch of people sitting down, and the players fell off the radar for who's the most important. And that's been the case for the longest time. Now, you have players out there now saying, okay, but if that's the case, why now are they adding it back in? You know, why are they actively deciding to put it back into the game at this moment? Fear. Fear. Pure fear. You got to remember, 2 things have happened right now. 2. 1. EA was bought out by some privatized individuals, including the Saudi government. And EA said moving forward that they're going to start paying attention more to the customer base. And why wouldn't you, right? The customer base is what brought you. I'm going to pour myself some more coffee. The customer base is what brought you the money in the first place. It's what made you the business that you are. And they said, well, they're going to start listening to the customer base. Okay. Battlefield is launching 30-something days before Black Ops. That's an entire month's worth of time. Just around 30 days. It's launching tomorrow. And then after that, Black Ops is 20 days, 30 days down the road. But here's the problem. On one hand, you have all of these people saying, we don't like the way that the Black Ops game has been going. And on the other hand, you have all these people that saying, you should just do this, this, and this. It would make the game infinitely better. Whether it will or it won't doesn't matter. Right? What they're afraid of, because they've seen the metrics. They've seen the played metrics. And if you had people on there saying, you had 500,000 players on just Steam alone playing Battlefield. And that's just on Steam. It was 520-something thousand players, and only 70,000 players for Black Ops 7 on Steam. Now people say, well, wait a minute, that's disingenuous numbers. You're not talking about the Blizzard launcher or consoles, or you're not talking about this, that. It's like, look, even if you did that, you had people playing Black Ops 7, they were playing Zombies mode. Okay. And you had people on Black Ops 7 playing multiplayer. Okay. And the Battlefield one was just the multiplayer. Now, let's parse it out even further. You're taking a section, just a tiny section. You're not talking about the EA launcher. You're not talking about console play for Battlefield. You're not talking about the Blizzard launcher or console play for Black Ops. So let's factor in 1/3 apiece. Let's say each one's a third. So 500,000, 500,000, 500,000, 70, 70, 70. You have 210,000 versus 1.5 million. And that's just factoring in an average of just 1/3. That 1/3 of the people used Steam. More people obviously use Steam than the EA launcher, so let's just cut the EA launcher completely out of it. Okay? Let's just say 50% played on Steam, 50% played on console. That's still a large number of players. And then, of course, the reviews came out. And it was all the journalists that were reviewing the game based on the campaign. And what you had is you had a whole bunch of journalists come out and say, well, the campaign was this, that, and the other thing. And they didn't have much of an issue with the campaign at all. Like, IGN rated it a 5 out of 10. A lot of other places rated it 9, 8, 4 out of 5, 4.5 out of 5, so on and so forth, right? Obviously, they're not going to give it a 5 out of 5, but the big thing is, if you're buying, IGN rated it extremely low, and I don't understand why. And they're saying, well, the campaign just wasn't that good. Okay. Brother, if you're buying a shooter for the campaign, you've lost the plot. I'm going to tell you exactly how many campaigns I've played throughout all of my shooter history. 1. Duke Nukem. The original Duke Nukem. I never played Half-Life, so I can't use that as a basis. I did finish somebody else's campaign on Half-Life because it required a lot of platforming, and he wasn't too good at platforming. However, I played Quake growing up, so I was better at platforming. And it was just platforming. It felt like, falling off a log. It was rather easy. And so I've only completed one campaign ever in a shooter. Every other shooter was about the multiplayer. Like, when you played 007 GoldenEye on the N64, you didn't sit there and go, yes, I want to go through and beat this entire campaign on the hardest difficulty. Unless there was an unlockable that you later found out as an Easter egg, you never did it. You just didn't. You settled down and you were like, okay, we're gonna do multiplayer. Usually pistols, one shot kill, Aztec or Temple, which was I believe was called Aztec, was the map. Um, and that's what you did. Or you did slappers only, no odd job, one shot kill. And you had great fun just beating on your friends and just playing the game. That's what most people did. They buy a shooter and they play it for the multiplayer. Same way with Perfect Dark. Same way with Perfect Dark Zero, Unreal Tournament, Quake, Duke Nukem 3D, any of the earlier Modern Warfares. And everybody's like, "Well, I played through the earlier Modern Warfares, and we didn't like the fact that they reused this, that, and the other thing." It's like, dude, just if you're buying it for a plot, if you're buying it for the story, it's not a story-driven game. It's a shooter. How story-driven can you make it? Like, I went back through, I think maybe on Modern Warfare 2, I went through and I did the storyline on that one, I think. But I couldn't tell you what it was about. I did it for the unlockable, and I did it for, I think it was just the unlockable. And I think out of that entire storyline, I think I remembered that Soap McTavish got domed. I think that was it. And I didn't pay much attention to the other storyline. Couldn't tell you who the good guys were. Couldn't tell you who the bad guys were. When it came to all of the Call of Duty zombies, I couldn't tell you any of that storyline. None of it makes any difference to me. It was you play Call of Duty zombies to level your guns quicker. That's what it was there for. It was an experience engine. You use it as a driving force to gain experience for your weapons and your battle pass. That was it. And you look at it now, and when people notice that the current Call of Duty landscape has changed drastically. To be 100% fair, it has changed drastically from what it used to be. And while they do make improvements here and there, like the Omni movement, what to me was an improvement. I loved that whole Omni movement idea. Sprinting sideways, sprinting in reverse, the omnidirectional diving, loved it. The omnidirectional sliding was great too. I loved that movement. I loved that addition to that movement. But was it the most fun? No, not entirely. The most fun that I've had with a single Call of Duty game was, I believe, Modern Warfare 2? I believe it was Modern Warfare 2. And that was the one where it had Zarqwa Hydra Electric. I believe it was 2. Could have been 3. But I'm pretty sure it was 2. Modern Warfare 2. And it had Zarqwa Hydra Electric. That was the most fun I've ever had on that game in a long time. I played the absolute crap out of that game. And that one had massive errors, massive graphical errors. Pardon me. Had tons of graphical errors for my PC. I mean, it was spitting out graphical errors like you wouldn't believe. And I still loved it. And it's because I had what I was doing, the Frogman Chronicles, right? And I was going underwater, going through all the waterways, and coming up behind the enemy and just being a complete menace. Staying underwater as much as possible, popping up when need be, using throwing knives in the ninja stars when I could, just being an absolute douche canoe. Wonderful time. Smiling all the time, laughing all the time, grinning ear to ear. It was fantastic. Even when I lost, loved it. It was some of the best times I've ever had, outside of using the Whitley on Castle in Call of Duty Vanguard. and the shoddy snipes in Vanguard. Those were good fun. But with this the way it is, it doesn't feel like the new game. Just does not feel like the old games, and it does not feel like it has that fun factor. Now, for the people that enjoy movement, for the people that enjoy jumping around like a complete ravenous baboon, great. I'm glad you enjoy it. I'm glad you're having a grand old time with it. It's not for me, to be perfectly honest with you. And so that's why I don't really care for it. Now, getting out of there while I still can. Because that poison is just nasty. Good thing poison can't kill you. Ooh. Can't even put the point in. Ring of Fortuitous Ring, huh? Yeah, we'll swap them out for an extra 2% magic find. Why not? Yeah, it's one of those games that to me just does not have the same appeal. Now, Battlefield does. Now, if the other, this is number 2 with the whole privatization of the game, and that the fact that the other game is well over a month away. Yeah, they're afraid. They're afraid of losing too much market share. I mean, how would you like to say on your quarterly earnings report? Yeah, we haven't made diddly squat because everybody's playing Battlefield. They know what's coming. They know it's going to be a hard hurdle to overcome. So they're trying to get out ahead of it and trying to say, oh, well, we're going to do this because they want people to stick around. They want the eyeballs to stay on their game. And I can't say as I blame them. I cannot say as I blame them. It's a smart move. The other thing that they need to realize is Battlefield has already come out and said, hey, we're hinting at naval warfare. We're hinting at maps that have naval warfare. Now, if you remember Battlefield 1942, the way old game before EA started ruining, well, literally everything, Battlefield 1942 was one of the most fun Battlefield games of all time. And if you hadn't played it, I recommend everybody go find a vintage copy of it and play it. Get it and play it. If you can find a vintage copy and play it like in a shell, like DOS shell, but obviously won't be DOS shell, but if you can play it in compatibility mode, do that. The graphics are a little meh. The bot knowledge and how good they are is very meh because it was an old game. But it's worth playing just to realize how fun it was. You started, like, one of them was the Battle of Midway, and you started on an aircraft carrier that had 5 planes on it. 5 planes, 2 landing craft, and you'd have to get in the landing craft, go down, and the landing craft had like 4 or 5 seats in each. And as you're riding in on the landing craft from your aircraft carrier, you didn't even have to use the seats because you could just stand on the thing. But never mind that. The fact that you could just you're riding in, right? And there's gunfire coming at you. Not a large amount of it, but there's gunfire. Like, because there's gun emplacements on the coast shooting at you. And these are usually, and they're manned by players. It was crazy. Legitimately a crazy time to be playing a war game. And you had 5 planes, like I was saying. Like 3 fighters, 2 bombers, something like that. And you'd be flying around from one aircraft carrier to the next. Now, there was 3 points on Midway, on the battle for Midway. And then once you controlled the point, it would spawn in tanks and other vehicles for you to use. They weren't just there automatically. You had to get them. And it was basically a tug of war for the battle for Midway. And of course, one side was the Japanese and the other side was the Americans, just like in 1942. And as you're doing this, one of the things you had the classes back then. You had engineer, soldier, stuff like that, scout. One of the things was this. Let's say you had all 3 points on the coast. Okay? So you could take your planes off of the Japanese aircraft carrier. Let's say you were losing as the Japanese. And you could fly those planes all the way over the map. And then have a player eject out of the back seat, the back gunner, because the bombers had 2 seats in it. One person had the bomber seat in the front, and the other person was the rear gunner to prevent from being shot in the back, like they had back then. So it was a 2-seat plane. You get the second player parachute out of the gunner seat and go cap the point from behind, or you can have somebody take the landing craft all the way around and land, and then come off the landing craft and then attack from the seat. But there was something even better. If you were winning or losing the game, didn't matter which, you could actively sink the enemy aircraft carrier, which was their HQ spawn point. If you put enough ammunition into it, it would go down. And as it's going down, you hear it making an alarm sound, and you can fly the planes off of it as it's slowly sinking to the briny deeps. It would respawn if there was enough time. But it was crazy. You could actually do it. There were times where I would fly in, I'd blow up the planes off their enemy aircraft carrier, drop my bombs, I'd run out of ammunition, and I would just fly the plane right into the side of the aircraft carrier to do extra damage. I was out of ammunition anyway. The only other thing you could do was fly your plane all the way back, land on your aircraft carrier, and resupply. It was quicker to just ditch the plane into the aircraft carrier, if you could, and try to steal one of theirs off the deck, which was possible, or ditch the aircraft carrier on their deck and then try to get off the aircraft carrier on a landing craft. It was still a great time back then. And by having that sort of flexibility in the game, it made it less unilateral than it is now. Like, if you take a look at the current Battlefield 6, once you're behind on the map, they can obviously camp your HQ, because they can't come into your HQ without being gunned down, obviously. But they can camp you outside of the HQ and then just constantly, kill off all the players that are respawning. And so that kind of pins you into that whole, spawn point. And that's the one thing I did not like about Battlefield 6, was how you can pin somebody in on that spawn point. I said, what they need to do is they need to make it so that either there's a C-130 or a cargo plane going overhead, right? And you can spawn in there and parachute out behind enemy lines, which feasible, and then have it just constantly fly over the airs, fly over the zone, and it only flies in when your HQ is the only spawn point you have. So it's not a constant thing, but if you're down to just your HQ, the C-130 comes in and flies overhead, and then you can spawn there and parachute in as reinforcements. That makes a lot of sense. The other thing that you could do is make the HQ destroyable. Much like with the aircraft carrier sinking, if you got to the point that you were losing the game, and they sunk your aircraft carrier, and you didn't have any place to spawn, the game was over. Literally, they just said, game done and over with, thanks for playing. And as wacky as that sounds, it was actually wild. Like, incredibly wild. It was a great time to play. You had the Battle of the Bulge. Battle of the Bulge was great, too. Because the Battle of the Bulge was exactly that. You were in a entrenched position in the city as defense. The enemy was on offense trying to come into the city, and you had to shoot down and take up positions to prevent them from coming in. Ridiculously fun time to be playing Battlefield back then. And that's the thing. Is if Battlefield is listening to the players now, and the players are saying, hey, we want some naval combat, don't be surprised if you get it. Because EA is not the EA it used to be. When it's under this new management, you can almost guarantee that they're going to float the idea by some devs and say, hey, throw some money at this. Yeah. I mean, that's the difference between privatization and publicly traded companies. I don't know if EA's completely sealed the deal on privatized, on being completely privatized. I don't know if you can still buy shares in it. But if it's completely privatized, you can almost bet your bottom dollar that they're going to listen to the players, because the players are what's going to drive the sales. That's what's going to drive the company, and that's what matters. When you privatize a business, it's about the consumer. It sounds so weird. You're like, oh, well, wait, it's privatized. They only care about the money. Yeah, and if your consumers aren't there, you get no money, right? So you take a look at what they're doing. So many people are tired of these publicly traded entities pushing out maximum profits for minimum effort. That's what they're tired of. And they took the Fortnite approach. Except the problem is Fortnite's free. So people are going to, like I said, as a free game, kind of like with Warzone, people are going to pop $10, $20 for nostalgia, for a skin, for a bundle. They don't have a problem with it because, hey, the server's free. But it's everybody else that's in the game, in my case, Black Ops 6 until tomorrow, because then it's just going to be pure Battlefield 6 all the time. You're going to have this whole sense of, oh, he's dead. That's not good. Hold up. You're going to have this whole sense of people wanting to be... Lost my train of thought because my mercenary died, and I got really worried that I was gonna be quickly behind him. But just give me a minute. It'll come back to me in a second. I get the sense that the Black Ops 6 and 7, to the most part, 7, there's almost going to be like this panic to it, of where they're going to have to quickly adjust to start listening to the consumer, like they did with Fortnite, and they were giving out stuff like this, and that's what it was. I was talking about the skins. The people in Black Ops 6 didn't like it. They were like, well, why do we have all these skins that are like Family Guy, cartoony? They were getting sick of it. And it's like, well, we got to think about it. You have Fortnite over here that's a successful business model because it's a free-to-play game and it constantly throwing out wacky, brightly colored skins. Well, the entire game is wacky and brightly colored. Always has been. So it fit. And so what did Call of Duty do? What did Activision do? They said, well, what we're going to do is we're going to bring out the same exact sort of wacky, brightly colored skins. And it's like, well, that's not going to work for you. And they were met with rather high amounts of pushback And so now, Black Ops, you know, for the, I can't even call it Black Ops, but um, Call of Duty, so Activision, I guess, if you want to go that far, basically said, okay, well, we don't want the brightly colored skins. Well, we're going to do away with those then. All right. So let's say you do away with the brightly colored skins. What happened to the people that bought them then? Oh, you're going to go switch to a new Warzone server that's not going to have them. At least that's the hubbub and scuttlebutt rumor, if you will. And if that's the case, what about all those people that you just burned all that good charity with? People put their hard-earned dollars into a server, put their hard-earned dollars into nostalgia and other things, and now you just said, nah. See, we're taking that away. And it's like, but wait a minute. Why would you do such a thing? Doesn't make any sense. And then you realize, oh, they're doing it to maximize profits. And of course, you're going to have the people say, well, that's just greedy capitalism. No. There's a difference, right? Company has to make money. We know this. Everybody knows this. If you're alive today, you know, in order to stay in business, a company has to come up with money. That poison is ridiculous.
Good evening. Good evening.
So everybody knows, obviously, company needs to make money to stay in business. We get it. But there's ways to go about doing it that appear less predatory. Why did I just buy that? Hit an extra one. There's ways to go about doing it that are less predatory. There's ways to go about doing it that don't make it seem like all you care about is the profit margin and the profit earnings sheet, which is all they really care about, realistically speaking. That's really the only thing they care about. But by doing it the way they're doing it, they're basically thumbing their nose to their entire consumer base for a few extra baubles and trinkets, right? And it's like, you gotta understand something. You have to understand that your consumers made you what you are. And that's something that a lot of businesses do understand. Right? So they sit there and they understand, okay, well, we are what we are because of the people that bought our product. But then you have a whole bunch that are like, we are who we are because we created this product and that's our brand and we're going to stick behind it. Okay, but there's a problem with that idea. There's a problem with that, and that is that's too idealistic. In a perfect idyllic kind of world, and in a perfect idyllic sense of it, yeah. You know, not idyllic. But in a perfect world, idealistic, that's the word I was looking for. My brain is just absolutely gone to manure right now. In a most idealistic sense, yeah, it works out great, right? You have this ideal of, that's our brand, we're sticking to it, and it's going to make us money. Is it though? I've mentioned this multiple times before on my channel. There is the 3 P's of marketing. There is the 3 P's of business. Price, product, people. Now, the 3 P's of marketing and business literally are, if your price is good and your product is good, you could have garbage people. And by that I mean, like, not really HR, but trying to think of the word of it here. Not PR. What is it called? Customer service. It's going to come to me in a minute, and it did. You could have absolute dog water customer service, right? But if you're selling a very good product at an amazing price, people are going to let that garbage customer service, they're going to let it slide a little. Why? Yeah, they're kind of rude and douchey on the phone, but for that good of a product at that price, we'll handle it. We'll tolerate it, right? Let's say you have a company. Perfect example of that company that's just kind of offers a good service at a decent price, but is just kind of a D list on the customer service. Is well, back in the day, was Comcast. They used to have a decent service for a great price. Um, Comcast was like that, and then of course I had heard multiple people. Dish Network was like that too. Um, they said their customer service lacked a lot to be desired. Okay, well let's take a look at it another end, right? Let's say you have a good product, great product, great people, great customer service, phenomenal customer service, but the price point's a little high. Now you're talking Bun coffee makers, right? Bun coffee makers, they'll cost you a little bit more. Let me tell you, Bun coffee makers are absolutely phenomenal in terms of product quality. And not just phenomenal in terms of product quality, if your Bun coffee maker dies, they want it back. They'll send you a box with a new coffee maker in it at a reduced cost because they want the old coffee maker back. We had it happen, right? We bought a Bun coffee maker. It was out of warranty. Completely out of warranty. We had it 2 years, 2.5 years. And it started leaking like a sieve all over the countertops. Massive puddles. We called up Bun. And they were like, how can we help you? Well, our Bun coffee maker that we bought is leaking like a sieve. What's the model number? We read the model number. They went, we got a box headed out to you in the mail. It's got a new one in it. You get to keep your coffee carafe with that one. You get to keep, just the coffee carafe and everything, like the glass part, so that you don't have to package up any fragile stuff. You put that one in the box. Keep the cord on it. Put that one in the box with the basket. Send it back. We're like, send it back. You want the old one back? And they said yes. We were like, why? They said, we're going to take it apart after we put water in it. And if it leaks like a sieve here, we're going to take it apart. We're going to find out why it leaks. And we're going to fix it. Because we want to know that our product works the way it works. We want to stand behind our product. And that wasn't the only time they did it. Right over here at the local 7-Eleven, I used to know a guy there. His name was Mike. He worked there, right? I walked in one day, was talking to him, walked over, went to get a cup of coffee, right? And I noticed that the little flapper valve for the hot water in the middle was busted. And that one of the flapper valves over here for the coffee, coffee dispenser, we had a couple of flapper valves that were busted. Got my coffee, walked up to him, paid for my coffee, and I was just like, your Bun coffee maker over there, it's got a couple flapper valves that are broken. He goes, yeah, we know. I said, tell your manager to give him a call. Give Bun a call. He just kind of looked at me weird. I said, tell you exactly what's going to happen. I said, if she calls Bun, I said, they're going to drive a guy out here with a van. I said, and in that van, he's going to have repair pieces and a new coffee maker. And he's going to come in with a flashlight. He's going to look the thing all over. And he's going to go through it. He's going to look it all over. If it can be fixed, he'll walk out to his van. He'll grab the parts, bring it back in. He'll tear it apart and have it fixed before the day's end. I said, if it can't be fixed, or it would take too long to fix there, I said he will take that coffee maker, he'll run it outside, he'll bring a new one in, he'll hook it up, and he'll say, got your brand new coffee maker, and I'll be on my way. This is one of those big industrial ones, it's got the double pour over chambers. You just pour the water on the top and it makes 2 pots of coffee at the same time. Ran along 2-3 days. Well, didn't run along 2-3 days. I went walking by that 7-Eleven the very next day. There sits a van that says Bun on the side of it, right in the parking lot. And I'm like, mm-hmm. My friend Mike was working there at that time when the guy came in. But I didn't go in there at all. I waited. 2-3 days later, I walk in there and I was like, what's up, Mike? And he's just like, he just kind of sat there like, you'll never believe it. So what's that? He's like, the guy for the coffee maker came by. I said, yeah, I know. I saw him in the parking lot a couple days ago. He goes, yeah. He goes, he did the exact thing you said he was gonna. He's like, he walked in with a flashlight, took a look all over the thing, looked at the flapper valves, went out to his vehicle, brought in the new coffee maker, hooked it up, took the old one with him, and headed out and just went on his merry way. And I said, of course he did. And he goes, why? And I said, Bun coffee makers, they tear them apart. They want to know why it broke. Because they don't want it to break again. And he just kind of shook his head. He's like, I'll tell you right now, he's like, if I ever become an avid coffee drinker, that's the only coffee pot I'm ever buying. Coffee maker I'm ever buying. I said, exactly. I said, their customer service and their product is incredible. But the price is a little high. You'll pay a little bit more for it, but you're getting what you pay for it. Believe me. And when they send you a new one, it's always at a reduced cost, too. Because they're reclaiming the old one. Because if they take the old one back, and there's parts on it that can be used, they'll take those parts off of it, and then they'll refurbish it, and they'll sell it again. To give another example of how good they are, my old man used to work for fixing up subway cars, right? Rail cars. He'd fix them up, they clean them up. He used to work there. There was a Bun coffee maker in one of those rail cars, but the rail car had caught fire. And that the rail car had caught fire, and they sent it to this place for repair. And they took the old coffee maker out of the rail car, and they put a new one in. They cleaned it all up. They repaired the whole rail car. Come to find out, it was like an electrical fire inside the rail car, right? And so after they cleaned it all up and they got it repaired, they said, well, what are we going to do with this old coffee maker? And they said, well, it depends. Does it still work? And they said, well, we don't know. And I said, well, throw it in the break room, see if it still works. So they tossed it in the break room. As far as I know, that coffee maker was still in the break room when my dad left that company. Same coffee maker that was burned in a fire was still there. Yeah. They are a very durable, incredibly durable coffee maker. And then, of course, you have the third thing, which is the product is not so good. The price is phenomenal for the product being kind of poo. And the people are great. So they don't have a problem, they don't have a problem replacing whatever goes wrong. But the product is poorly made and can be replaced easily. People will still buy it. You buy a cheap product that you know is cheap. You know it's made cheap, and you're like, you know what? It's made cheap. It's a cheap product, so we're just gonna do it, and it'll still sell because if the people are good, and again, you only have to nail 2 of them. You only have to nail the product quality and the people. or the product quality and the price, or the price and the people. You don't have to get to be good at all three. If you're good at all three, your company will thrive. If you're great at two, and if you're great at two and not so good at one, or that the price is a little high, your company will thrive. And that's the thing. With EA doing what they're doing, going privatized, and actually listening to the customer base, that's bringing back that's going to bring back two things. First, it's going to bring back wait. I need a 4-socketed spear. X. I think it's 4-socketed spear I need. Anyway, it'll bring back two things. First off, it'll bring back customer service. People that actually care about what the customers are saying. Because if you can care about what the customers are saying and doing, your product will improve. So long as you consistently listen to the 80% of complaints. So you got to remember, the largest percentage of your player base will complain about certain things. You got to find that largest percentage of your player base, and they'll complain about 20% of the things. 80-20 rule generally applies here. The other 20% of the player base will complain about 80% of the other things. Or consumer base, I should say. It's not player base. The goal is to listen to the majority of the consumers. If the majority of the consumers are telling you something, take it under advisement. Look into it. Don't turn a blind eye to it. Because when you do, that's when the problems happen. That's when all the troubles begin. But we're rounding the 50-minute mark. We're halfway through Act 2. We haven't really had a whole lot of strife and struggles, but I fear that Duriel is going to be a problem. But again, if you just take a look at product, price, and people, and you realize you only have to hit two of them. EA going privatized is going to hit at least two of them. The prices, I think, are still going to be a little high, and I think that's never going to change. In fact, I think a lot of the AAA gaming industry is going to continue to go up in price for games, despite the fact that a lot of the framework and a lot of the other stuff is going to be done by AI. Which, again, I don't have the problem with AI coding framework. If you think about it, you task an AI, hey, code me a first-person shooter framework, so that when input happens, it happens. You click an input and the thing occurs. Have them code up the framework, and then fine-tune it, right? That's different. Allow AI to do the heavy framework coding. That way you don't have to. And it takes a lot more people out of the cycle. That will eventually drive prices down, except for one thing. That's only going to drive prices down on a privatized company. Because then the privatized company goes, well, there's a lot less people we have to hire, therefore our profit margins will be better if we just lower the price, that we'll get more consumers, and the product will be consumed at a wider rate. Simple demographic calculation here. You have a higher demographic of people purchasing because the game is cheaper, therefore you have a higher demographic of games being, well, not just games, but, well, yeah, games, because we're talking about AI. You have a higher demographic of games being purchased simply because, well, the people buying the games are buying it because it's cheaper now. Because the AI goes, well, I can make it cheaper. But if you do this in a publicly traded company, they go, we have no interns. We have no people here. We only have a couple people to fine-tune the coding. AI does all the heavy lifting. We still charge $80 per copy. Because profit margins. They're never going to change. Because it's run by suits. And the only reason this happened, the only reason you have publicly traded companies dictating things via shareholders is when you got rid of R&D development. When you got rid of the research and development department, and you got rid of the people that actually listened and responded on the forums to complaints from consumers, when you got rid of that, that's why you have shareholders. And those shareholders dictate every single thing that goes on in these games. and it's just ruining the industry completely. But I hope you enjoyed this video. I hope you enjoyed the topics I talked about as well. I hope everybody has a fantastic evening, a wonderful tomorrow. Happy Battlefield Day, because that's today this video goes up. Happy Battlefield Day. Actually, no, wait, that's yesterday. Tomorrow. Whatever. The 10th. Happy Battlefield Day. I hope everybody's enjoying the game. If you got the game and you enjoy it, I hope you enjoy it. If you don't enjoy it, sorry you don't enjoy it. Have a fantastic evening, a wonderful tomorrow, and as always, have a good one. See you on the battlefield.